Alright, so I just got done recording a sad doomer video about the Vancouver Canucks, and I was gonna hit publish, but then we had ourselves some news. I wanted to refer to this video that we made about a week ago. Steve Yzerman has something up his sleeve. In this video, we talked about Willi Tigri-Liberec forward in the Czech League, Jakub Rychlovsky. A guy whose name you probably should be getting familiar with because after that video, it turns out everything we had discussed came true. Because the Detroit Red Wings today have signed left wing Jakub Rychlovsky to a 2-year entry-level contract. This is so early, the Wings haven't even put an article on their website about it yet, but this is indeed the newest Detroit Red Wing. Let's go out there and revisit all the same things we had talked about in this video, just in case you missed it. I get it, 5.2k views is a lot of views, but this is the official signing, so we gotta do our due diligence and do things properly, right? So, let's talk today about Jakub Rychlovsky, a 22-year-old 5'10", 181-pound left-handed left-wing player who was signed a 2-year ELC with the Red Wings, presumably starting in 24-25. This will take him till the end of 25-26, or, yeah, that's how it goes, right? Yeah, exactly. But of course, if he plays in the AHL and stuff, doesn't get any NHL time, then we'll see if the ELC extends a little bit. But Jakub Rychlovsky was a player that has had a pretty interesting Czech progression in his career. He's always been in the Czech League, playing in different versions of Team Czechia and playing for Willi Tigri-Liberec in different versions of the Czech League. But eventually, he worked his way up to being a top-of-the-line player, scoring 46 points in 51 games played this most recent season. An explosion of offense compared to all of the previous years he has had. This also was noteworthy because if you take a look at the Czech League, he was the #1 goal guy in the entire league. Sure, he didn't have as many points or assists as some of the other players, but he still was the #1 guy in goals. It's also kind of crazy when you think about it, how the top 2 players in goals were from the same team. That's nuts when you really think about it. Like having 2 Austin Matthewses on one team, that's kind of crazy, but still, Rychlovsky set records. I believe he was like the youngest player in Czech League history to lead the league in goals, something like that. And if you wanted to talk about some of the other comparable players, the articles and stuff that we had talked about spoke about how Rychlovsky projects to being the best young Czech player since other names that had made their known presences in the league, like Dominik Kubalik, for example, who was another Detroit Red Wings acquisition at some point in his career. So, Steve Yzerman has been looking to the Czech League to acquire some of these guys and take a look at their profiles, and Rychlovsky seems to be next in line. If you wanted to go over some of the progression as to how he has played, let's go over to EP Rinkside, because this article from Marek Novotny goes out there and talks about the Central Europe stock watch. Rychlovsky setting scoring records in the Czech Extraliga. His stock is skyrocketing at a rate that is sure to generate some attention overseas as a free agent of interest. The progress is undeniable. From 1 point in 13 games in 2019-20 to 45 points in 50 games just 4 seasons later. He's now the youngest player in Czech Extraliga history to win the scoring title, scoring in the season finale to give him 26 goals on the year. One better than the previous record holder. There you go, it's Dominik Kubalik. His nickname is Rychlik, and it's a fitting one. The translation on it is speed, and that's one of the most dominant features of his game. Rychlovsky is an intelligent, instinctual scorer with a flair for showing up big and scoring goals. NHL teams are right to have an interest in Rychlovsky. Now, speed is the name of the game here, but he will need to maybe get a little bit stockier if he wants to sustain that speed at the NHL level. 5'10", 181 is not the biggest in the world. Of course, it's not tiny, but at the same time, he could stand to gain a few pounds if he wanted to really bolster up an NHL caliber frame. With this in mind, though, I also wanted to go over to this article published on isportblesk.cz. This is a Czech media source, and this article from Pavel Rysavi goes out there and talks about how this has been a season of dreams. And then we have an insider sees the shooter from Liberec on his way to the NHL. Attached is a video where the Czech Extraliga analysts go out there and say that Rychlovsky has been so good that he'll probably get some NHL interest, and that's exactly what happened. He signed with Detroit. You look at Europe and cross off the players that someone drafted from the NHL. Who has the potential to play overseas? Corey Pronman specializes in young hockey players. He compiles various rankings for The Athletic several times a year. And now he is pointed to the Extraliga. He chose one name from there. He was very interested in Jakub Rychlovsky from Liberec. The Tigers forward is having a dream season, and if his development continues like this, the next ones can be even better. This is the Corey Pronman analysis. These players most likely won't become difference players in the organization, even if an Ilya Mikheyev, for example, comes along every once in a while. Just in case you needed the scoop on that, Mikheyev was great in the KHL, but man does he suck at the NHL level. I mean, he's okay defensively and he's fast, but he does not do anything else. Corey Pronman says this of his ranking of players who fell through the cracks during their draft but are now much better than expected. Jakub Rychlovsky also fits here, who scored 25 goals, now 26, in the Extraliga, and is joint first with Tomas Philippi on the table of the best scorers of the competition. You don't expect him to roll into the next Sidney Crosby of Pittsburgh, but gradually he can get to a level where he can be a valid player for an NHL club. He drew considerable attention for the first time in December 2020 at the Under-20 World Cup. He created an assist for Philip Crawford's goal against Russia. He raced down the left wing, kicked the engine, and drove past two opponents. Everyone was waiting for the left-handed shot from the goalpost. He suddenly turned to the center and passed across the axis to Kofer, who had a goal in front of him without a goalie. The winning goal in a difficult defensive battle from the point of view of the national team was scored, and the Czech Republic won 2-0. In the current season, Jakub Rychlovsky also made his debut at the adult national team and scored a goal in his first game. He learned to play well around the goal area, so he scored from there against the Swiss too. Statistically, the most goals are scored there, so I always try to find a gap, and the score at the right time. Now it's worked out again, he recounted in December. He also scored 17 of the 25 Extraliga goals from the immediate vicinity of the net. He's rather small in stature, slightly over 180 centimeters tall, but he knows his way around. Corey Pronman highlights even more attributes of his game, that Rychlovsky is a strong skater with good hands, has a feel for offensive hockey, and can finish from a distance. He skates well enough to have a real chance to play in the NHL one day. Rychlovsky's fight from the overseas can start from next season. It's no secret that scouts come to watch him. At 22, he can move, and it's time to improve on the farm. Taking players of a similar age is not a risk for any NHL club because it only costs you a few tens of thousands of dollars to farm. Either the event it works out, you hit the treasure, or you don't. Rather, the player risks losing money compared to Europe or his career stalling if the overseas organizations do not suit him. The Liberec attacker should be quite high on Radim Rulik's list for the World Championships in Prague. He will definitely receive an invitation to the camp, where there will be a chance to be nominated for a major world tournament. There, scouts from overseas clubs will have another chance to see how he fares against even better opponents. Now, unfortunately, as we talked about a few days ago, he did not play for Team Czechia at the World Championships. He had played for different versions of Team Czechia at different tournaments, but he did not play for the main one where they just won, and, David Pastrnak was out there doing some really good things. So, for Rychlovsky, this is a guy who has exhibited some significant improvement over the past few years. He is a scoring winger who, despite being only 5'10", 181, can force himself into the dirty areas and score goals in tight. The Red Wings could use another finisher, like right in the slot on their power plays and in the bumper position, so if Rychlovsky could work his way up to being that kind of a guy for Detroit, that'd be awesome. But of course, he's just a free agent signee out of Europe for now. He's not guaranteed to be playing in the NHL. He might just be an AHL guy for next season, who really knows. The Wings like to take their time developing players, which is totally acceptable. But for now, we'll see what Steve Yzerman and Derek Lalonde have in store for Jakub Rychlovsky, the newest Detroit Red Wings signee. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as to how he signed his 2-year ELC. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.